Very good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes,
Audible,
ma'am, you are.
visible, colorful, yes.
Thank you, Manu sir. I'm Dr. Priyanka Kulhari, Assistant Professor, ARSD College, University of Delhi. And today I'm going to present my paper on Indian Women and Cinema, a shift from men act, women appear. So, as we all know, that cinema is the most powerful of all art forms because of its wide reach and its amalgamation of audiovisual elements. What it portrays on the screen is really significant. It shows the images from the society as well as constructs them by influencing the masses. Through its female characters, it constructs an image on the screen of women. Earlier, if you look at cinema, women was projected as a submissive, docile, homely, and a controlled character. She was a passive character with no strong presence. She was a self sacrificing mother, loyal wife, dutiful daughter in law, caring daughter, moral sister, and a very devoted housewife. But if you notice in the last two decades, Bollywood, basically, I'm going to talk about the mainstream Indian cinema, named as Bollywood, that has made a mark in, that has made a shift in the representation of women on the screen. So, in this paper, to prove this assumption that there is a shift in the representation of women, I have taken some assumptions earlier recorded by some scholars, and I'm trying to show that how recently Bollywood has shown deviation from that, paradigms of the portrayal of women. So, if we go back earlier, the professions in which women were shown on screen were mostly nurse or teaching. But now, if you see that women have been shown, the women characters on the screen have been shown from all spheres of life. They are journalists fighting for justice, doctors serving people, fierce police officers becoming nightmares for goons, tough spies crossing every
വിളിച്ച്
limit
വിളിച്ച്
for
വിളിച്ച്
their
പക്ഷെ
nation,
പറഞ്ഞില്ല.
uh, efficient workforce in corporate sector, and models and actors registering their presence in the glamour board. So such independent portrayals influence and motivate women to pursue their character in any field. Second assumption, which was set by Christine Glenhill in recent developments in feminist criticism, where it said that women as women are not portrayed on the screen. They do not have a voice, their point of view is not heard. They are ornamental objects to glamorize the screen, the cinema. But today, the women characters uh, they are not portrayed as arm candies. They are no more bichari nari, but women of substance and strength. Recent cinema has deviated from the stereotypical representation of women and gave us many strong, confident, ambitious, and determined female characters who have influenced many in different ways. Now, if you look at Veera's character in Highway, she raises her voice against sexual abuse she faced as a child at her home. She questions the hypocrisy of the society which stopped her to speak of such atrocities. She breaks the stereotypical notion that marriage is the end goal of a girl's life. Aisha in Dil Dhadakne Do is a self-made person. She started her company and got recognition as a successful entrepreneur. Laila in Jindagi Na Milegi Dobara and Farah in Dil Dhadakne Do are two strong characters who have their own views of life and they live their life on their own terms without bothering about what others will say. Something completely different about the female character portrayed on the screen 2 decades back. Then Lala, with her free spirit and her love for adventures like scuba diving, motorbiking, breaks all the feminine stereotypes. Meeta in Hasito Fasi is one of those rare characters where women has been shown as a great scientist. She is loved by the dashing hero as well as the audience, not because of her beauty and body, but because of her wisdom and intelligence. There are many other characters which inspire us and which are very strong individual characters. The complete hockey team in Chak De India, that is also very inspirational, and they are demotivated from the very beginning by saying Indian women are made to work in kitchen, not play sports like hockey. Another statement, हमारे जैसे देशों में महिला टीम सिर्फ दिखाने के लिए बनती हैं. Okay, so in countries like ours, women's sports team are made only for formality. but they make their way to destination fighting all against all the gender biases. And that's the reason that this movie is acclaimed as a very, I quote, the most fiercely girl power movie to have come out of Bollywood ever. Now there is a strong list of such character, long list of such strong characters. To name a few: Leela in Ram Leela, Meghna in Fashion, Mastani in Bajirao Mastani, Devsena and Shivgami in Bahubali, Inchia in Secret Superstar, Anarkali in Anarkali of Ara, Kaira in Dear Jindagi, Chanda in Nil Bate Sanata, and many more. And all these strong characters which have been portrayed on the screen, they prove that Bollywood is marking a shift from the notion men act, women appear, as recorded by Laura Mulvey. According to Urvashi Butalia, which she has said in Women and the Hindu Rights, that films dealing with women issues are also an important tool or an instrument to portray men as protectors. These movies, they deal with women issues, their problems, and their struggles, but they do not focus on women's point of view. Rather, they project a man as a hero, that how a man is going to sort all these problems, how he is going to rescue women from this situation. But again, there have been movies in the recent times where women, like the fairy tales, are not going to wait for any chivalry knight to rescue them from the evil forces. Rather, she becomes her own agent to rescue herself. In past, these three women, they free themselves from the cruelties of the patriarchal society. In Mom, Sri Devi punishes the rapist of her daughter. In Angry Indian Goddesses, all the women fight against the atrocities of the society on their own. In Anest 10, Meera, she does not rely on any man for justice, rather, she herself deals with the murderers of her husband. Nirja is a movie of the wisdom and courage of a cabin crew named Nirja, which talks about, that how brave and how courageous she has been when their plane got hijacked and she saved the lives of 143 passengers there. The titular character in Akira single handedly deals with the corrupt police officials who try to kill her. Then there is this movie, Purna. Purna showcases the struggle and journey of a tribal girl to reach to summit of Mount Everest. She had to face double discrimination, a girl and that to a tribal, but nothing could shake her determination. So these strong characters, which I have just talked about, they are indication of a change beyond the old delineations of feminine traits. Now, next assumption, Jasbir Jain and Sudha Rai in Films and Feminism Essays in Indian Cinema mention that in Indian cinema, women is projected, and I quote them, the one dimensional film heroine, that of a pretty face posed on a snow white pedestal of virtue. I don't question, their observation completely, because till 1990s that has been the only kind of portrayal women has been shown in the same way. But now, as I said, Indian cinema, Bollywood is paving a new path by rendering dynamic female characters, and they are also challenging this notion of pretty faced heroine, which used to be the only trait or parameter of an actress. Many actresses took this challenge and broke this cliche regarding their bodily appearance. Actresses like Priyanka Chopra in Barfi, Bhumi Farnekar in Dam Laga Ke Haisha, Anushka Sharma in Sui Dhaga, Kangna Ranaut as Datto in Tanu Where's Manu Returns, they come out of this perfect body image. Deepika Padukone as the titular character in Piku, she is a next door Bengali girl. And nowhere Printhi Chopra as Meeta in Hansi To Fancy has been shown as a sexy, glamorous for themselves. Kangna Ranawat as Rani in Queen also has been shown as a very middle class girl without any, gaudy dresses or heavy makeup. So all these characters, they, with their real depiction of women, have made a mark in the film industry. Perfect shaped body image of actresses create depression and low esteem in young girls. So such real true representation of women on screen has worked in this direction also. I Singh has observed that the portrayal of women, in even in subtle ways, this I'm quoting is his word, the portrayal of a woman in even in subtle ways usually presents her as the guardian of culture and religion or embodiment of purity and spiritual power. So this component of chastity and virtue, it has been long held within the Bollywood territory. But now again the question rises: who, imparted this guardianship to her? Again, one more tool of patriarchy to keep her into chains. And if you like, when we read partition literature, also there has been many examples of such savageries which have been, you know. Brought against women because of this tag of honor and culture bearer only. But again, if I'm going to look at the movies in the almost last 2 decades, we'll see that how these movies have brought this hypocrisy of the society into light. If a man drinks, uses abusive language, goes to the clubs, okay, and lives his life on his terms, he is labeled as a cool and happening guy. But if the same is done by a woman, she is given the certificate of a slut, of a characterless woman, a spoiled brat, right? So, because she has this responsibility to guard her cultural values. So, if something is bad, it should be bad irrespective of gender. I'm not here, really advocating the idea of smoking and drinking. I'm saying if something is bad, it should be bad irrespective of gender. We should not associate this notion of gender with goodness and the badness. So Urvashi Butalia, she has also once said in her book that a woman who wears Western clothes, drinks and smokes, she is labeled as a bad woman. But again, this notion has been, challenged by Bollywood. Nowadays, we see women characters, the protagonist, wearing Western clothes, going to clubs, drinking, smoking, enjoying with their friends. Whether it's Kavya from Hamti Sharma Ki Dulhania, Tia from Kapoor and Sons, Vijay Lakshmi in Queen, Mariam in Tumhari Sulu, Vedai in Badrinath Ki Dulhania, Kaira in Dear Jindagi, Piku, Rene in Badhaiyo, we love them all, right? And there is acceptance for these characters, right? Another assumption is that, again, if you go back, two women in the movies have been shown either fighting as enemies, fighting for the love interest, okay, or as lesbians. They have never been shown, sharing an undying bonding like men. If we think of friendship, what comes to our mind? Jay Biru in Sholay, or Dostana, Abhishek Bachchan and John Abraham, or you can remember Three Idiots from the movie Three Idiots, right? And there is many more to add to this list. But recently, directors have tried to explore this idea of female bonding, where they have shown women laughing together, crying together, and helping in self-realization. Movies like Past, No One Killed Jessica, Tumhari Sulu, Pink, Queen, Angry Indian Goddesses, and Viridhi Wedding.
Ma'am,
These
if
are
you
some
can wind up,
examples.
yeah, that the earlier one was a bell. Now time is
Yes,
getting.
yes, sir. It was a bell, and it was for 10 minutes. She has 1 minute more.
Okay, I'm going to conclude
Yeah,
this
yeah,
one.
yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so these are some movies which explore this idea of female bonding. Now, you might question that it's not that the female issues they have been picked up by Bollywood recently only, they were there also in the past, but they were there in the parallel cinema or in the art cinema. If there was some mainstream movie made on such issues, its box office report was not good. It was not a success or hit movie on the box office. This shows the rejection of that idea. But if you look at the box office reports of these recent women-centric movies like Dangal, Padmavat, Raji, Anyways, Manu, I shall just 2 seconds, I'll wind
Yeah,
this
yeah,
up.
sure,
Okay,
sure.
so all these movies and their success shows that the public is accepting this idea, okay, and that an actress can take a movie on her shoulders. The last point is that Bollywood has also come up with movies which on the issues which were taboo, like Padman, which talks about an issue which was hushed, completely hushed. Toiletic Prem Katha that talks about hygiene and sanitation problems of women. There are movies like Anarkali of Ara and Lipstick Under My Burqa, which displayed on the screen female sexuality, their desires, and their fantasies. Same way, Queen also talks about women that she who has been dished, by her fiance one day before her marriage, but she is not going to become so-called Devdasi and going to spoil her life, but she goes on her honeymoon alone and starts it and then starts a new chapter in her life. Yes, which is remarkable. So, based on all these, arguments, now I conclude my paper with saying that in the recent times, Bollywood has shown some interesting digressions from the stereotypical presentation of women. It challenges the old notion that Bollywood shows women as bearer and not the maker of the meaning. Bollywood has, is showing shifting paradigms. A phrase I, borrowed from yours, is shifting paradigms of women portrayal from the one-dimensional film heroine to the dynamic female characters, advocating equality, negating underrepresentation and misrepresentation, exploring the untouched sides of female world, and discussing women issues. Bollywood is contributing to women empowerment in the recent times. That's all.
Hmm.
Thank you so much.
Your assumptions with paper was well presented, and the arguments were well made. The assumptions and the supporting evidences were all good. The only problem where I think all of us will have that problem, and I guess that you have anticipated those questions and answered those in your paper as well. But still, we would like to hear that from you, and that those questions are posed in a very proper manner in the chat box. So I will read that out for you. Javi and us. I agree that strong women are being represented in Indian cinema overall, but the objectification in terms of having them for eye pleasing in item number still exists now, even now. What's your take on that? So the male gaze. So what do you think about that? Yeah.
I'll just talk about one song in answer to this question. That is Sheila Ki Jawani, Main Tere Haath Nahi Aani, where she is saying, though I am being objectified, but now I'm not going to be confined in the four walls and I'm going to speak my voice. Okay, so in that title number, when she says that Main Tere Haath Nahi Aani, I think that is where this whole message is given. And second thing, I haven't said that it has completely changed. I'm talking about is changing. Okay, earlier, 95% to 90% of the cinema will show women as the arm candies only, to glamorize only. But now, that is changing. At least that shift has started taking place. The change is very far away, but I think this is the first step Bollywood has taken, and I think that should be appreciated.
Yeah, if you say that, then we don't have a problem. But if it is like, that was what, when you are making presentations, we cannot complete everything in the presentation. Right? So when we listen to it, I think all of us felt that can we make such a blanket statement that there is a huge paradigm shift, because we don't see that. Yeah, there are, of course, small beginnings, or yeah, that is happening, but something, the change that is coming is probably, yeah, that was what you were trying to say. And the second part of that question is also interesting. Also, the women you listed out in terms of staying away from the idea of being pretty in movies, are in those movies categorized as art films, thus making the beauty as subjective rather than blockbuster. So the art versus the mass versus class debate, and are in the movies you refer to belong more to the art or the class movie, which is not the mass movie.
Sir, in one point when I talked about that, this question can come that there were issues which were talked about. I have given in my full paper. I have given the box office record of the movies, which were men centric, excluding I think Sui Dhaga. If you look at the box office record of Dear Zindagi, if you look at Burfi, they have made like if all that. There is one site from where I picked up this data of showing the how much they have earned from this one and whether this comes into the category of box office hit. It brings them into those categories, excluding Sui Dhaga, where I gave you the example of Anushka Sharma, but rest of the movies they come under that. Burfi, that is considered that it made a profit. Okay, it means that at least now this idea of women shown as a normal women is there. Piku, that was a, again box office hit movie. It also made a great collection. So in my full paper, I have given the details of the box office collection also, and which shows that these movies have been accepted.
Okay, so you have data supporting that these are not just art movies but also mass movies. Okay, that is fair enough. We have a couple of questions, but due to time limits, I will just ask you and leave it for you to think about it. If you have answered, fine. So the thing is, one thing that I wanted to ask you was, yes, there is a shift, or we are seeing a shift happening now. What brought about this shift, or why this shift. That is the first thing. And the second thing, when we speak about movies, you can look at the camera and by extension the director of the movie as the transcendental signifier, or the ultimate who decides. So, is there a change in that perspective, in the camera angle? Metaphorically and literally, has the camera angle changed sufficiently to convince us that there is a shift? You can answer it. Maybe if you have answered it, fine. Because of time constraints, maybe in a minute you can answer. Thank you.
Sir, there is one paper by one of my colleague, uh, Vidushi. She has written on Anarkali of R, and specifically she talks about that scene where at the end Anarkali is, playing on the stage, and that is where she's talking about this angle of camera, that how there are three angles, okay, and the three eyes which are visualizing her as the audience characters, then the camera, and then there is one more screen showing there. Okay, so yes, I think this shift in the camera is also because now there are females at the back of the camera also, and I think that is bringing this shift also, that how now the women, that is not shown in a way where she is going to be portrayed as a glamorous body only, but as a woman, as a real human being. So might be that the camera has come into the hands of women. There are many female directors, and I think most of the movies which I talked about, they are made by them only. So might be that female perspective at the back of the camera, as director and the camera people, that is bringing this change.
Okay,
I think.
fair enough. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, thank you. It is a very interesting paper, and it has spawned a lot of questions and a lot of course, thinking as well. It will be nice. It would have been nice if we had more time, but time waits for not us. So,
Yeah. Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much. Yeah, we shall move to the next paper, but if the next presenter would be okay, there is a request. Reshma and Peter request if it is okay for her to present next. If the other paper presenters are fine, Reshma, please. Yeah. And Priyanka ma'am, you have another comment in the chat box. You can read it later. Thank you. So Reshma and Peter, are you here? She requested and left. Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for considering my request because I'm facing some network issues here. So I'd like to go first.
Yeah. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay, so yeah. First of all, I'd like good evening to everyone, and I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to like where I can present my paper. So I'm Reshma and Peter, and I'm an assistant professor at the PG Department of English, Don Bosco College. And the title of my paper is "Reclaiming Space and Identity: Examining the Rohingyan refugee crisis through literary memoirs." And the primary text that I've used for this research is of for this paper is first the erased I name, which is actually the memoir of Habibur Rahman, which is written by Sophie Hansel. And it is one of the, to give you an introduction to the book, it is one of the first books where a Rohingyan refugee is speaking about his experience. So there are no other books or any records prior to this. So, and talking of this, I quote Habibur Rahman when he says this is my chance to speak for my people who continue to suffer but who are voiceless. And this kind of justifies the title of my paper as well, where the refugee, or in this case, we're talking about Habibur Rahman and the community of the Rohingyans, where they're trying to reclaim their space and identity through a memoir. So, to give you the background of the situation, Habibur Rahman was born in 1979, and he was raised in a village in western Burma. And when he was about 3 years old, the military leader of his country declared that his people, the Rohingyans, were not one of the 135 recognized ethnic groups, and hence he was left stateless and homeless in his own country. So these Rohingyans, they became victims of extreme prejudice and persecution. And when the government intensified the process of ethnic cleansing most of the community members were forced to flee the country, and most of you would have come across them. I mean, come across these news about them in various newspapers and channels, and they're often called the boat people because they escaped the country, by boats. Most of them tried to flee to Bangladesh, others tried to go to other neighboring countries, and they used boats for this. So the book, First They Raised a Name, is like one of the first. It's the first person account of this crisis, of this humanitarian crisis, and here he kind of talks about what it means to be voiceless in one's own country, and also as a refugee in another country. So, uh, through this genre that he's chosen, a memoir, he's able to voice his concerns and talk about the history of the genocide, which was never talked about. And he's also he's kind of trying to find representation for himself and others from his community through this memoir. So, a memoir, as defined by Emmett Abrams, has its emphasis not just on the author's developing self, but also on the people and events that the author has known or witnessed. And here in this particular memoir, it is not just the subject's voice that is being heard, but also the countless people who are kind of subjugated or subjected to this violence and misery. So let me kind of talk of some of the features of a memoir as a postmodernist text. When you analyze the narrative, you realize that the text implies confusion and fracture, and it does not really have a clean narrative line. For example, even though he has when talking of his early childhood, he is able to recollect everything that happened during his early childhood. When talking of his late childhood, he's not able to do so because of the traumatic events that he has witnessed, and the racism that he's experienced all his life. So due to the stressful nature of occurrences here, the narrator is kind of he fails to give you a complete picture, and this is kind of shows the fracture in the narrative as we move along, and it's kind of evident all throughout the book, because a lot of events, even though he talks about the traumatic event, he fails to kind of mention it later, or the effects that this has had on this event has had on him. And again, to talk of the postmodernist features of this text, it is quite layered, and the whole text not only talks of the hegemonic power structure, like, and its effects on them, but also of the equations they share with other people. For example, the equations they share with the neighbors, the relatives, and the power structure that kind of existed between them, like in the community itself, like among the Rohingyan community itself. And it is and there are so many occurrences and so many events where there are for example, there are people who kind of snitch on them just because they want to find favor with the authorities. So the complexity of relationships is also examined in detail in this particular text, and especially changing relationships, especially that of his parents and that with his other relatives who are kind of who are not, they were not able to be in touch with these people. That is also examined in this. And so to justify the title of my paper, when talking of the identity crisis, as a refugee, you do not have an identity in your country, and that is and that's one reason why you're being forced out of the country. But when as a refugee, as Habibur Rahman goes to other countries, he's been to so many countries, like Malaysia and Thailand and things like that, thing where he's being heard and his voice and that of his community is being heard. So with that, I'd like to stop. So thank you.
We missed the last part of your lecture, I mean, as part of your presentation because of some audio issues. But yeah, we got the gist of the paper, and it was well presented. The idea of space in the question of identity for the Rohingyas, it's a burning issue, and it is a live issue. It's a life
Yes.
issue as well. So, very relevant topic, very beautifully presented. Of course, we would like to have are there questions, participants? Do we have questions? I would just I don't know whether you have come across this book, but I would suggest a book by Kasi Fatmida Farsana. It is published by Macmillan, and this book is titled Memoirs of Burmese Rohingyan Refugees. It's a very beautiful book, and it is available in PDF format on the internet. You can no need of buying, it can be downloaded. So this
Yes.
book very beautifully analyzes the issues of identity, the issues of belonging, the sense of belonging, the lack of sense of belonging that these people feel, and of course the question of space as well. And I think this could be
Yes.
you might find some very interesting supplementary information on this, not only information but some very interesting points related to this in that particular book. Just a suggestion. Otherwise, I mean, this paper was complete in itself. Very good. Thank you so much. Do we have
Yes.
any
Thank you so much.
questions?
Thank you so much for the comments as well.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so
So
much.
we do not have more questions. No more questions.
Okay, okay, fine, fine. We shall move to the next presenter. Aisha, who is the next presenter?
Yes. So Dr. Klinsa Kurien couldn't complete.
Okay,
So I
yeah.
mean, she couldn't start, right? She was the first one. So, ma'am, are you there?
Dr. Klinsa Kurien, are you here? One Lissy Kurien is here. If you are here, you are not, you are on mute. Lissy Kurien. Klinsa Kurien has also joined. So, yeah, yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you.
Both of them.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Good evening. Good
Good
evening.
evening, ma'am. So, Lissy Kurien, do you know Lissy Kurien?
No, that is my mother, sir. She just
Ah,
joined on my request.
okay, fine, fine, fine.
Oh,
So she
Yeah.
was here and we tried to make her present your paper.
Oh, no, no, no.
Okay, ma'am, you can
Yeah.
begin. Yeah, thank you.
So, good evening, one and all. I'm Klinsa Kurien. I'm working as an assistant professor in Medicaps University, which is in Indore. And I feel highly privileged to present before this, wonderful audience on behalf of academics. So, respected professors, respected colleagues, respected organizers, I would like to begin my present my paper now. So, I've titled my paper "The Quest of Existence in Post-COVID Times," and it is based on a study of the theme of existence in the novel of Sigrid Nunez, which is titled "Salvation City." I would like to begin with a quotation of Sun Tzu. She says that in the midst of chaos, there is opportunity. Now, as we are moving through these post-COVID times, it is of course an offshoot of existentialism in literature, which of course explores the problem of human existence, thought, feeling, and also the idea of feeling helpless, insecurity, doubt. So all these things are very much prevalent in the in fact, it carries on days of the pandemic. So this Sigrid Nunez, she's an American writer, and she has published a lot of novels, especially to do with themes as pandemic. So I would like to just justify a few themes that she has explained in her book Salvation City. So in Salvation City, I have based it on a 5-point analysis exploring of psychology, sociology, politics, religion, as well as economy. So here also themes of absurdity commonly seen in the novels of Sigrid Nunez. Throughout write on these themes, feelings of helplessness and insecurity and doubt. So coming to the psychological themes, firstly I would like to explain the idea of the fear of death, which is also known as thanatophobia. Now, thanatophobia is very commonly seen in her novel The Salvation City, wherein she really talks about, the plot essentially revolves around a boy who has lost his parents. He has become orphaned during these times of the pandemic. And he's through and through very scared of the idea of death. and he's being adopted by this pastor couple who are also involved in parenting, but he's not fully satisfied with them, given that his original family is lost. So, day in and day out, he has really feelings of debt and helplessness. He's unable to come to even terms with reality. And this fear of death, when we talk about psychological aspect, it also ends up in isolation and depression if they are not being treated properly. So throughout this novel, if we see, the plot revolves around this. And this boy is being counseled. On one hand, he lives with the priest, but on the other hand, he continues to feel very insecure because of the aspect of his coming to terms with reality. He's throughout fighting for his goals, he's fighting for a survival, and he's also fighting for an identity. Though very young, he begins to understand all these concepts. Now, the next psychological theme that I would like to dwell upon is the fear of shaking hands itself, which is known as mesophobia in psychology actually. So mesophobia, I think even it really applies to the pandemic times, wherein even we feel a certain sense of hesitation because we are worried about the aspect of germs and all that being passed through. So it is not only a psychological flaw in the person, but it is also a physical flaw and in the mind. We have a hesitation, isn't it? We don't fully well greet anybody, and even if we do, we just wash it off with the, or make use of the sanitizer and try to undo it. So it is not only a pathological fear, but it has become a psychological fear too these days. And what follows with that, according to the psychological experts, is that social anxiety disorder, once again fearfulness, and then stress. So what is happening is we are feeling so stressed to even extend a hand of friendship. And that is what are these pandemic times all about. Now, sociological theme. Now, when it comes to the sociological theme, again, the character called Cole, who's a very young boy, the orphan boy, he's again struggling because he is having sex, or his adopted parents having sex right in front of his eyes. So that creates a very, very negative image. And this particular image constantly runs in his mind because he is at a stage wherein he is a mix of both innocence as well as ignorance. But he is unable to take it because he feels that it is something very bad. He still doesn't realize that it is a principle of procreation. So that will take him a little longer to accept. But he has to accept these facts. So, given that his parents were lost at a young age and his adopted parents have indulged in this, so it is also a kind of laxity of values or degradation that we see here in these novels. Now, the next sociological theme is that of dealing with cancer. Now, as we move through the plot of the story of the Salvation City, we see that the pastor's wife, she's suffering from cancer, and that becomes a very problematic kind of a situation wherein it is once again not only physiological but it is psychological too, because through and through they are dealing with this pressure, and though she has a treatment, but still she's scared that it would reoccur. So the recurrence of cancer again plays a psychological kind of a problem, or it's a kind of a mind conflict that this lady is going through. Now, the next idea is about grief. Now, when we generally talk about grief in normal terminology, it is just about dealing with this, anything which is sad, or, losing, loved one and all that. But in the pandemic times, grief has a much bigger connotation. That can mean that, you're losing your loved one within a minute, or, very unexpectedly because of a small virus, or because of, something which is very insignificant. So the connotation of grief has also shaken mankind, okay, and it is extended to these pandemic times. So all of these aspects we see in the social themes. Now I would like to come to the political theme. The political theme of this very book is based on the aspect of migration, and migration has always been a very big experience. Now his adopted parents, they also move in from one place to the other, and also his the you know pastor couple who have adopted him, they also have issues, moving in from one place to the other. They are settling in one place, then resettling, and all these traumas is taken a toll on this young one's mind. Okay, and global mobility, that is the political term for globalization. that is also, having an impact on mind. He wondered to see who he was, who had what that in his mind as actors and unable to actually to like highlight in the political angle. Now coming to religious, the religious aspect is the West,
Klinsa ma'am, we can't hear
what
anything. Your network is not good. In Klinsa ma'am, we can't hear anything. Your network has failed you.
Yes, sir. Is it okay now?
Now okay. Yeah. Maybe you can turn off the video for a minute
Yes.
and complete the presentation.
It was actually,
You cannot? Yeah.
yeah. So when we come to the religious theme, so there is also always a constant quest for religion and meaning. Like we absolutely feel that there is no religion. Like during these pandemic times, most of us have avoided going to churches, avoided going to temples, avoided going to mosques. So we have felt that religious void and loss. So the similar feelings are felt, even in this novel. And though the pastor couple, they are all involved in religious activities from within their home, but still they are unable to, fully well have an association with the divine. They feel a lapse somewhere. So these things are happening, and also they feel that there is a gap between the earthly and the heavenly existence. Now, coming to the very last theme, which is the economic theme that I have analyzed here, of course, the economy has also suffered incredibly because this boy, as long as his parents were living, they were involved in their professions fully well. But as soon as the pandemic happened, they lost their jobs and they moved on from one place to the other, and they haven't had stability there also. So there are a lot of issues and concerns regarding the job loss and lack of stability as well. Now, cultural backwater is a term which is used in the novel by the very author itself, and she says that in the backdrop of this cultural backwater, it is the children who suffer because they are unable to come to terms with reality and they cannot even fully well decide where to settle because of these problems in terms of the job location and all. And lastly, the iPod culture, which is so prevalent in children, so that is also playing havoc. Of course, it was used as a replacement for the classes, the offline classes, but they are also kind of projecting a certain sense of loss, and they have developed problems like anxiety and hearing loss and concentration problems around these in children. So these aspects are projected here with the iPod culture. Then, in conclusion, I would like to say that this aspect of the pandemic was really portrayed in almost all the religions. It had come as a doomsday thing that we need to rectify our lives. Somewhere there is a laxity of morals. Somewhere there is a confusion. Somewhere there is a problem that is created in the human personality and psyche. So we need to improve our lives, and that was the reason for this pandemic to have evolved. And in conclusion, I would just like to take some words from the religious scripture, which says that, "Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea." So I say that we are just going through a phase of evolution, and sooner or later we will become better human beings. Thank you.
Klinsa ma'am, that was interesting. I thought your paper could very well have been, subject for 2-3 papers, if not more, because even if you hadn't taken the novel, the topic was, sufficiently explored in your paper. The question of survival post-COVID and existence, survival and existence post-COVID. So I think that was properly explored. And another thing that I felt regarding this paper, in fact I forgot what I was trying to say. Yeah, one thing, what was this paper about? I lost my stream of thought. So please, somebody please chip in. What was the title of your paper? I lost it completely. post-COVID time. So one thing I was wondering was whether we can actually use this word post-COVID times, whether it is post-COVID. And second thing, um, this idea of post-COVID. I'm losing my thought. I'm sitting here since morning, so I think time is up
Okay.
for me.
Yeah, that happens, sir. I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
understand.
What I felt about your paper was it was like Robert Frost's poetry. What they say about Robert Frost's poetry, it begins in delight and ends in wisdom. There was dulce et utile, delight and instruction. The first part was literary and analytical and literary, and the last part was a little didactic because you were giving some religious versions of how things ought to be and why it is like an apocalypse for us, for the human generation, a warning for the human race. Anyway, that was very interesting. And yeah, any questions, participants?
I would be glad to take in any questions if there are any.
Realistically, you could have divided it into few papers, right? There is sufficient content for more than one paper. Even if you hadn't taken this novel Salvation City, I think it was sufficient. You could have spoken of course you were speaking about the virus being not only a virus that affects the body but also a virus that affects the mind. Probably a
Yeah,
virus
it's
that,
both the
yeah,
psychological and pathological, sir.
exactly.
Because in the aftermath of the situation, I think we can fully well, connect to it. And
Yeah,
we are
yeah.
going through the same. So I thought it's a very relevant theme.
Like the computer virus, no, it affects the software,
Yes, yes.
and like the human
Yeah.
virus, it affects the hardware. So, yeah,
Yes, yes. Very appropriately said.
yeah. Our audience is so lovely. They never ask questions. They never task people with questions. But of course, they are very attentive, and I hope that if you have questions, I will never be asking because I'm asking since morning, and very few people come up with questions. So if you have questions, you come up with questions when somebody finishes presenting paper. So Klinsa ma'am, that was nice. Thank you for the presentation, and
Okay.
thanks also
Thank you
to
so much.
people from your home, the guests, because I see a
Yes.
few Koreans in this chat box.
Yeah, I guess they are my parents, sir.
Lovely.
Yeah, PK Kurien
Thank you.
and Lizzie Kurien. Both of
Thank
them are very
you.
highly educated and,
Yeah,
they were always my inspiration to get into academics.
lovely. Thank you,
Yeah.
parents, daddy, mummy, for being here. Yeah, thank you so much. So, though you are now a teacher, assistant professor, for them you are
Yes,
still
I'm
with it.
teaching
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Indore. It's a private university over here, sir.
yeah, yeah. Okay, ma'am. Thank you
In
so
fact,
much.
I'm very happy to know that my paper was selected on Sunday because other days I would have been fully engaged. And, Saturday is an off, but Sunday I've got a lot of time to, prepare.
Cool.
Otherwise, we have a lot of workloads, sir. Not to
Okay.
mention it, but
Thank you
thank
to
you so
all
much for the
the whole
opportunity.
Korean family. Thank you
Yeah.
also. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks a lot, sir. My
Uh,
pleasure and privilege.
the next paper
Then
presenter, Aisha.
Vasantha, I guess Professor Vasantha.
Hmm. Vasanta is from Bhadravati. Mahashweta, a paper on Mahashweta Devi. Are you here?
Yeah,
No.
she's not to be seen, sis.
Dr. Aparna Ajith, are you here?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Please, please.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
you
You are
are
audible
audible.
but not visible.
Sir.
Aisha, your mic is on, it seems. Please mute.
Sir, may
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
a warm good evening to one and all. The title of my presentation is Actuality versus Possibility, a postmodern reading of Margaret Atwood's Happy Ending. Also, as we have heard a lot many deliberations regarding postmodernism, so I'll be going into what my paper is focusing on. It is basically talking about the postmodern elements present in this short story and
And when I've gone through the short story, what really struck me was this is a short story written even in less than 1,500 words. The way she's trying to give, or the way she's trying to give an involvement for the readers, that's something really did strike me by incorporating the self-reflexive elements of postmodernism. So let me begin the presentation by quoting the first line of the short story. John and Mary meet. What happens next? If you want a happy ending, try A. So this is how the story begins. When John and Mary are there coupled, and the way how they are meeting, and what is happening in their story. And if you want a happy ending, try A. And this is the way she has developed the plot. And in this, through this short story, she is giving us five different conclusions, the five different way their story is progressing. So one thing we can notice that in all these six different stories, the characters are John and Mary, and what is happening in their life and how that is changing. When you read the story, you can understand that how in the for example in the first story, when she's beginning, John and Mary, they're happily married, they have a happy life, they have kids, they have a good sex life, then they have worthwhile friends, they go for vacation, and this is how they live. And ultimately means ultimately they die, means the inevitable end comes to their life. This is the way she has structured this first story. So when we are moving to the second story, we can see that how there is a change. So they fall in love, and in between they get into so many problems. And in the other story, that John is having an illegitimate relationship, then Mary gets in touch with a man named Max. So this is the way the story is changing. But towards the end of the first story also, she has given a sentence. John marries Mac and everything continues as in A. And when you move to the third story also, there you can see that John meets Mary, and after that he gets married to Mary becomes the lover, and John gets married to a lady named Madge. And then in their life some problems are happening. Then they get a very good time. They go for outing in the motorcycle. Then they create some problems. So all these are there. But towards the end of the story also, we can see that Margaret Atwood has given the sentence that everything continues as in A but under different names. So in the fourth story also, we can see the same thing. Everything continues as in A. This is how she has developed the story, and the characters are moving in such a way that, or means they are married, they are married and they are couples. They have so many problems in their life, but the ending is somewhat similar in all the stories. Although she's trying to give some amount of complication in some stories, the common thread in all the things are the ending. And here, and one thing that is striking in the story is the third person narrative. And when she's giving a kind of third person narrative, we can see sort of detachment. I mean, a sense of detachment that is actually creating a kind of emotionless narrative. With at some points you feel that that emotions are lacking, and the way that is drawing attention to the plot structure more than the characters. So even the characters like John and Mary, the situations they are undergoing. So when you read these different types of plot, we can feel that all these are the things happening to many people and in everybody's life. But at the end, and when the story is structured in such a way that the ending is almost the similar, but what happens toward the life or the midway is actually different. So
ഇതെങ്ങനെ ഇത് ഓഫ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്?
okay. So we can even say that even in the story, the value of the story lies in how the relationship is cultivating in every stage. What is happening? So John and Mary, they get married. What happens next? And then what happens to their kids? Then what happens to their official life, or what happens to their family matters? So this is how she's, and so the end is not what matters, but still she is trying to give the main characters to John and Mary. Actually, they have no last name, they have no character development. Only thing is the story has different versions. And when you go through this third person point of view, the narrator, she's trying to avoid a kind of internal monologue or the thoughts, and maybe how the plot is progressing. So the lack of a proper identity is at times missing in the stories, because towards the end of the story, means I have already told, the story is written in such a way, the plot such a way that there are five endings to the story, and towards the end or towards the last para, it is almost a sort of conclusion or a kind of her own analysis. So I call If you think this is all too bourgeois, make John a revolutionary and Mary a counter-espionage agent and see how far that gets you. Remember, this is Canada. You'll still end up with A. And A means at the how the story. They have a happy married life. They had a wonderful life together. Then at the end, they died. Though in between, you may get a lustful, brawling saga of passionate involvement, a chronicle of our times, sort of. You will have to face it. The endings are the same however you slice it. Don't be deluded by any other endings. They are all fake. Either deliberately fake, with maliciously intent to deceive, or just motivated by excessive optimism, if not by downright sentimentality. So the only authentic ending is the one provided here. John and Mary die, John and Mary die, and John and Mary die. So much for endings. Beginnings are always more fun, true connoisseurs. However, they are known to favor the stretch in between, since it is the hardest to do anything with. Now, try how and why. So, this is what can be said about all the plots, which in any way are just one thing after another, a what and a what and a what. What happens next? What happens next? And we are trying. So, in all these stories, there is an explicit involvement of the reader. So we are also in which conclusion do we prefer, or is this something that happens in our life, or is this something that is always missing in our life? So when you go through all the stories, you also feel that these are the kinds of dilemma, or these are the kinds of problems that everybody encounter, or in almost everyone's life we can come across a John or Mary. And the way Atwood is trying to give this effect, especially in the writing process, and she in a way she's trying to condition the readers about the aspects such as that cliches of a romance story. And this is especially written in such a way that there is means no clear evidence of a normal romance, because the way that she has portrayed, and she's not giving that elements. And when you are introduced, when a third person narrator is introduced, a kind of in this romance drama, we can see that the way the character and the story is progressing, there's some kind of romantic element. It's just that we tend to think that these are characters or the story is fake. Even the portrayal by which she has been, you can like it, and she has even got guilty and confused, bird watching, cancer, like that. She has got so many birds in the story, and happily ever after that. This is another way in which she has ended the story. So throughout the story we can say that the infinite possibilities of how and why and what is happening in their life. So and also the way she has created a kind of emotionless, and although we tend to have some kind of sympathy when something happens in their life, but still even our emotion also tend to divert from to which character we should be more attached, whether it is to the characters present in plot A or if it is in the plot B, because everybody has a different ending. In one story maybe we'll feel that the character is facing some kind of conflict, but even after the conflict the story is ending in a happy note, or even that death is a sort of happy death, or it is a kind of ultimate end, or this is something that happens to everybody's lives. So throughout the story we can see that it is a medley of the actualities and possibilities happening in everybody's life, not just something that is happening to only a person from Canada. So the lesson we can learn from happy endings is we should pay attention to savoring what is left before the inevitable end comes, before the ultimate reality of death comes, how we have to move forward. And in so the in her and regarding the writing technique also, the writing means the writer gives a clear picture with great clarity and vision she has written, and at the same time she's able, or the story like any postmodern we can say that the reader is involved, or a kind of open-endedness the story has. And means it's going with that the metafictional elements of course there, and also what the regular writers are striving, or what the regular writers try to get through their story. Actually that kind of a technique is entirely missing in a story, maybe because the narrative point of view is different and the genre convention is different. And above all the word limit, even within less than 1500 words she's able to get into an intense theme, or a theme of great significance in our life, and the way she's trying to give different possibilities. And at times there is a conflict of this actuality and possibility. We even tend to think that okay, this is something that can actually happen, or this is just a possibility. So from the beginning till the end, even when you read that John and Mary meet, they fall in love or they get married, what happens next? So even when you see this kind of a statement, you will naturally feel the curiosity to know what is happening. So for some people, when you read that, okay, the first story, John and Mary meet, or John and so they marry, and that is a kind of conventional way. But when you move to the second story, when you move to the third story, you can see how the different levels of meanings are unraveled through the writing. So I would like to conclude my presentation saying that John and Mary, we can all come across John and Mary in our own lives, and it depends upon how that actuality and possibility. But still, these are the phases we go through in our life, and in a way, the story is too much connected with the real life, and at the same time, the story is giving a great sort of involvement to the reader. Thank you.
I was wondering how you could present so many things so fast. You were speaking so quickly, but still making a lot of sense. That was nice. Is there a Rashomon effect pervading this story?
Sorry, sir.
Is there a Rashomon kind of effect pervading this story? Rashomon
Oh,
movie?
Uh, yes, sir. Almost similar to that, and also I think there is some other short stories there. Robert Coover's Babysitter means almost that kind of thing. We will be curious to know, okay, what is happening. Will this story really fit into, or will this conclusion really fit into? So that kind of curiosity I really felt while reading the story.
So it's a story about storytelling, right?
Yes, a story about storytelling and the way, and we can fit into the story. Which one you like, you can take, or maybe we can say that it is a kind of choose your own adventure sort of story.
Hmm.
This is what I
Curious,
feel.
nice choice of story.
And I'm so happy to see you, Manu sir, over here, because I really get a lot of information from the website Research Gate. From there, I really come across so many programs and all. I've never met you in person, but it's a wonderful platform. And moreover, I have listened to many of your YouTube lectures. They are really insightful. I'm so glad to meet you over this
Thank you
online
so
platform,
much.
sir.
Thank you so much. I know why you said this. You don't want more questions, right?
Oh no, 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 sir, no,
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 just kidding.
no.
Just kidding.
No, sir, yes.
No, I wanted to ask something else as well. The story is titled Happy Endings, right?
Yes, sir.
From whatever you said, you said one thing that
Ah,
the story is open ended. Another
see,
thing that it has five endings and only the first one is happily ending, in the traditional
yes, sir,
sense.
yes, yes, sir.
So why is it happy endings in the title? Why is the story titled Happy Endings? Is it kind of ironic, or what is the author mean by yeah?
Sir, maybe in a way that can be contradictory, the happy ending, but still, in everybody's life, the ultimate end means death. So in a way, we have to meet that. Means the in between time, or the things that are happening in our life, that may vary, but that ending is definitely going to happen, and that is death. So that we should accept in a happy tone. This is what I felt, sir. This is my interpretation.
Okay, wish you a happy ending. No, no, a happy ending to your presentation. It was nice. We love listening to your fast-paced, highly informative presentation. That was nice. Any questions? No. Yeah. So we move on to thank you, Dr. Aparna Ajith. Nice
Thank you, sir.
presentation. Thank you. Next
Miss
presenter is
Maria Shima. Miss Maria Shima.
Maria Shima from Sarojini Naidu Mahila Mahavidyalaya. Please.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good
Please.
evening to the organizers of AIFEST and my fellow colleagues from all over the India. My name is Maria, and I'm faculty of English from Sarojini Naidu Manita Mahavidyalaya. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my paper. And the title of my paper is Postmodernism, a decade portrayal of Patrick Bateman. It was a novel which was produced or was published, I will say, in 1990s, and which became very popular because it had changed the course of the novels, which was written during that time. And as talking about this author by Aris Bisman, Ellis, he is the kind of author where he has portrayed the inner thoughts of the protagonist, or maybe normal common individuals here. So, coming to this novel, I just wanted to Just because in terms of identity, because like if we want to analyze the human beings, it's much more difficult and most complex system to analyze the human individual. But in this novel, we find more and more possible identities being revealed of one particular person. And the title of the book which I have taken is American Psycho. The title itself is just like a psycho, and that to an American here. And where is India? America for struggling in 1980s and 1990s, where because the Cold War was there, and you can say Cold War and other missile race and the typical type of democracy was prevailing in America. And the postmodern novel also why I'm calling it here because it has focused on the literary traditions and the subject formation which has been parodied in this novel, like sex, cocaine, designer grab, and the lightweight pop. And the diet of body beautiful serial killer Patrick Bateman, and the way all the qualities of the postmodernist era has been uh, compiled or compressed, or you can say, or inculcated in this Patrick Bateman. Man and women, child or animal, all of them have end in a very gruesome manner in the hands of Bateman. And the frequency and brutality and the creativity which we can also think in Bateman's murder has been truly sickening level, and it is emotionally numb. When he commits a murder, wherever he has committed a murder, he is emotionally numb. And the psychosis which he has been governs him, it does not neither trouble him nor thriller him. And the novel challenges the limits of the acceptable discourse and the flaws which has been used in decency of a human being and his mind is the most important thing which has been reflected in the novel here, and and he has been analyzed from various perspectives because sometimes he is being called as uh, a villain, a bitter villain turned into a hero, and he is a kind of lost who has lost control over reality, and he has been described as a true villain where he has been not at the same time when he has been meeting his friends in a Wall Street, and he has been discussing about how to commit murders and all. He has been discussing about thrillers, suspense, gruesome brutality. People used to enjoy it, and they did not even thought that okay, he is going to commit the murders here. So he was living a life of a double-faced man or dual life, we can say. And at one time when he had started committing a murders, no one has least bothered about how the people were disappearing here. He has murdered his own friend. He has murdered, you can say that he has also murdered uh, beggar. He also committed the friend of the beggar, that is a dog, in a very brutal way. And he does not limit these murders only to the men, but even to the women and a child. And he does not have that kind of numbness and does not have any regret of things here. And he was living in that kind of society where postmodern society, which has been materialistic, consumerism is there, and reality versus hyper reality. These are two things here again. And he tries to find his identity through committing the murders and gathering the wealth, but he fails here. He takes out his frustration on the people who are lower than him, and he commits and he tortures and murders the women, and like he call for call girls, and he just gone into the relationship for a one night or two nights, and then he commits on that. Alcohol, cocaine, drug was the major things of the postmodern society, which is still prevailing in our society here, and does not only live like someone out of the magazine. Okay, he also copies the serial killer, which was he used to read the narrator, and he's also narrator and protagonist. So narrator reads all kinds of serial killer novels, magazines, and he tried to parody these things here. So man has become the parody that he wanted to imitate the other actions here, and this is the kind of man who wanted to imitate the murders here, and he has no real identity, and it's even his original method of murder also. And Bateman takes on identity of serial killer and imitates the crimes. He finds himself torn between postmodern reality and the reality he creates in his mind. So at the end, the novel, I just wanted to conclude here. Like in the novel, as the novel begins with here, begins with the most opening quote by the Dante, uh, by saying that the hell, welcome to the hell here, bound by the hell, and it is the kind of the hell which man, to see the hell is better to go into the psychology of a man here. So it starts with this thing, and we have been unrevealed throughout the novel. We will see the many aspects of postmodernist era here. With this, I will conclude my presentation, sir.
Yeah,
As you
you,
know, we are busy with so many activities, so that's the thing. So
yeah,
thank you for giving
yeah,
me the
you
floor.
were celebrating Sarojini Naidu Day, right?
Yes, sir. National Day and Diamond Jubilee celebrations, as well as Sarojini Naidu's birth anniversary, 143rd birth anniversary.
Okay, 143rd. Wow.
Yeah,
Uh,
143rd birth anniversary of Sarojini Naidu. Just now, 1 hour
greetings,
back, I came back. So
greetings
that's
to all the faculty members, and I think
yes,
two
thank you.
of your colleagues are also here in this meeting, right?
Yes, Nikhat is my colleague. She is also going to present the paper, and I have invited some of my colleagues to attend and see our paper presentation and become our critics also.
Okay.
So yes, that's right.
So, you were discussing American Psycho.
Hmm.
Did you? I mean, I haven't seen this movie, American Psycho.
Yeah.
So, do you feel that it has something to do with the original Psycho, the classic Psycho, the movie
Yeah.
Psycho by Hitchcock? Uh,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yeah, is it
Hmm.
connected, or can you find any connection between these movies?
No, not that too connectivity. That's
Uh,
not too that connectivity.
okay.
But the gruesome brutality, historic movies are not that too brutal compared to this here.
Mm-hmm.
Historic has somewhat comic or elements also. Some has kind of message to the audience here. Whereas this movie or this novel does not give a kind of a message, a moral message. It's a too gruesome here. I will say it's not.
So
It's not. We
no,
cannot compare.
no obvious intertextuality there, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And another thing, we say that a postmodern text, whether it is a movie, a poem, a postmodern text is an um, infernal machine from an infernal machine. Machine from an infernal machine by an infernal machine means the movie, a hellish movie by a hellish director, if you can call it. Hellish,
Yeah.
not the person, but that is the condition, the postmodern condition. So probably that is why you wanted to call it a decayed portrayal, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
That's right.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for that presentation, American Psycho. Your colleague is waiting to make the next presentation. Nikhat,
Yes.
Fatima. Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
sir, Nikhat. Hello, everyone. This is Nikhat Fatima from Sarojini Naidu Vanita Mahavidyalaya. So today I'm going to present my paper titled Existence of Alien is a Myth or a Postmodern Reality. So, life on Earth for humans is an ultimate gift from God. So, throughout the history, right from the existence of the humans, constantly we have seen that humans have kept themselves developing, and the development is so that what we see the world today. So, with the development of science and technology, and with the development of this research of space, humans are also in search of extraterrestrial life. So these extraterrestrial life is nothing but it is also referred as aliens existence. Aliens. So when there is no aliens, the word came into existence is a question. Same like till we come across coronavirus, we were not aware that about coronavirus already it was given earlier, isn't it, sir? So the same thing here. So in the 14th century, the word alien came from the it is a Latinized word taken from Latin. It at that time the meaning was nothing but belonging to someone else, and with the development in plenty of theories, these word alien is being referred for the search of life which doesn't belong to the earth. So when it comes to the search for extraterrestrial life, that is nothing but aliens. The astrophysicist Bradley Hasen, He is a professor of physics and astronomy from University of California, Los Angeles. So he says that we are in search of aliens, the existence of the life apart from the Earth, but the problem is we don't know where to start. So again, plenty of theories are given by many scientists, and they are in search of life. They think that there is the existence of life given, but as far as today's century, the proof, the evidence is not yet been uh, found 100%. So, but still there are plenty of theories given. As per the Drake equation, it indicates that the existence of life elsewhere in the universe is very high. Um, Researches are going on still. NASA gives a lot of things regarding this, but I want to talk about the most popularized thing, that about the sayings of Stephen Hawking and his theories. He has predicted a lot of things, and he has presented his theories as per his mindset, and he has talked about the black hole and the talked about the artificial intelligence. And regarding artificial intelligence, he also said that it can also be disastrous for the upcoming generation, where man has created the machine. Now the situation is that man has become the slave of the machines. Man himself has created, and God addicted. That addiction is nothing but taken as a slave to the machine. Without the machine, man, now the humans can't do anything. It is such that situation. So Stephen Hawking, he predicted, as well as he has presented the theory. In that theory, he is talking about that stop. The quotation is given like, "Stop trying to communicate with aliens." So when we see these sort of theory, when Stephen Hawking is saying that stop trying to communicate, logically we can say that, of course, the science and technology is going to develop in such a way that the human reach to that extent, that when we are going to discover aliens. So many of his theories got what his predictions got successful, and we have seen what he has said. So in the upcoming future, maybe our generations may see that aliens have what the theories the scientists has presented, that have been proven the existence is there. But as per his prediction, he has stated this. And with the recent study from the Beyond News from the Australian Research Centre, the space expert has said that there is a signals coming from the Milky Way galaxy, and they are nearly 63% of chances that someone is trying to connect when we are trying to connect them. So this thought of theories and the researches which are presently going on now with the radio astronomy observatory in the Western Australia, with the presentation of these many things, uh, at, in present century we can to 50% of extent we can say that we can consider it as a myth. But the other 50 for the other 50% we can say that it can be a postmodern reality, as per the predictions of our former scientists, and the theories which we are working on. And again, here comes a question, like some of the normal peoples, like they questions, when there are plenty of things here going on, what is the need of search for the existence of other people? Why? See, when we don't go into it and when we don't search for anything, how we are going to develop ourselves? So God has given these thoughts and to the humans, and humans are trying to find out it. Why? But these alien aspect has bombarded, uh, uh, these aspect has bombarded the predictions, the imagination powers in the film industry all over the world. All over the world, Americans, Australians, especially Indians, the recent movies which has seen like Koi Mil Gaya, What Happened, and Aliens, What is the Food? All these are imaginations, and we are enjoying it, isn't it? Everyone is enjoying it. Who knows, in the as per the postmodern theory, it can be a reality. There are plenty of chances, as we are as our scientists are in research of it. So I go with the conclusion that it's not a myth. the existence of aliens is not a myth, but it can surely be a postmodern reality. Maybe we may not enjoy that existence, but our upcoming generation may enjoy it. But the genre of this presently we are enjoying it. The UFOs, the presence of aliens, and the whole big movie Avatar, where Pandora, a different type of I can consider it as universe was created, and we have enjoyed it. And the person who has created has earned a lot. We are enjoying it, presence in imagination, but there are 100% chances that our upcoming generation may enjoy the existence of aliens. So I will consider it as a postmodern reality. Thank you. Presenting this, there are plenty of theories which I would like to discuss, but in short, I um, uh, uh, kept it as a postmodern reality, as discussing, like, there are plenty of theories. Nearly I have found 108 theories which different scientists has presented on it. So I don't want to go too long for this, and kept it short, and talked about the known personalities which all my colleagues who are hearing can understand. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you. It was interesting, very interesting. I
But
think,
I kept it really short, sir.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry
very
for that.
good, very good. Brevity is the soul of
Because if
wit.
I go on with the theories, when like everyone will not be aware of it. So I just talked about the Drake and the Stephen Hawkins, and everyone is assured that there is the existence of life apart from our Earth.
And I
So we
think
have
you
come
have
across.
chosen out of all the 108 plus 1, 109 theories, postmodernism being the 109th. Out of the 109 theories, you have chosen the best one to prove
Yes, sir.
the existence of aliens. Why? I will say something very theoretical, because in postmodernism we have hyper reality, and if, according to, if Baudrillard can say that the Gulf War did not exist, by the same logic, as a corollary, you can say aliens exist. So I think that is the be all and end all of all questions relating to aliens, because they say that the Gulf War did not exist because there is something called a hyper real, and if that is the case, you can very much prove that the aliens exist. Whether they physically exist in some reality, we may not know, but they exist in our imagination, in our thoughts, in our in our everything. So they exist, right? They exist. They have a hyper real existence, no question about it. And postmodernism is the best proof, is the best way to prove that aliens exist. Maybe you can do that, bring that also into your paper, and that would
Sure, sir. So, I would like to mention one more thing here. The research which the search of alien, existence of search of alien is a very big research, and it's a very serious one. But this research has given a new genre, that is the sci-fi movies, science fiction movies. So they are in a serious process, and we are enjoying the imagination process, sir, with them through the movies. Plenty of movies we are enjoying. Aliens are coming, talking to us. Okay, UFOs. If the kite is flying and it is very far invisible, children are telling, okay, maybe UFO.
Yeah,
So
wait,
this is
wait
really
for
going on.
tonight. We will be sending some UFOs. Your way, Sarojini Naidu Mahavidyalaya. Okay, so thank you for that presentation on aliens. Anybody wants to say anything to the aliens or about the aliens?
Yes, I would like to make a small comment here. First of all, very interesting presentation there, Nikat.
Thank you.
You began your paper by making this small statement: uh, "Life is an ultimate gift of God." Um I don't think making such. So this is a small suggestion, maybe. Making such sweeping statements in a research paper could be very productive, uh, because I may be an atheist there. So, but uh, again, one more thing, sir, Manu sir. Do you think we can make postmodernism as a vehicle or as a way of proving things? It's just, if I said this, then this is
No,
this is how it is.
no, it is only theoretically, not proving something. It is not a scientifically or empirically proving something. It is arguing something, right?
Right. So
So,
just an argument that we can make through
mhm.
postmodernism
I
that
think this paper isn't exactly about postmodernism as such. It says as a postmodern reality, myth, aliens as a postmodern reality, and does it come under the purview of postmodernism? Yes and no. If you say that it comes, yeah, it comes, and whatever you said, it makes sense. Uh, when we say that we all are sweet creations of God and things like that, such sweeping remarks can be avoided because research is expected to be empirical and based on solid research. So it doesn't mean somebody. She wasn't saying she was an atheist. She said she could be somebody could be an atheist. That was what she was saying. Yeah, when you write the paper, maybe in a presentation, it doesn't matter, but when you write the paper, yeah, we have to make sure that we stay clear of such sweeping statements that we are living in a happy world or we living in a terrible world. In any such statement can be considered a sweeping statement because yeah, that is the problem. Yeah, good observation, man.
but
And I
again,
think you are the next presenter, right?
yes, but again, I think it's a conference on postmodernism, so we can comment anything as an individual, I suppose.
Perfectly, that is the entire thing. And I want to ask one doubt to Niket, ma'am. You said life is a gift from God and existence of existence. Are you seriously saying that God is an alien?
No, God is an ultimate truth because God has created us.
What is ultimate
God
truth?
can't be an alien. God has created everything.
Okay, I
But
don't
God
want to
has
start an
given a
argument.
thought to the humans to go in search of that. See, every discovery is a thought. See, when God is the ultimate power, He is giving the thought into the human minds, and human is going in search of that. We can't deny that truth.
Well, by
Uh,
the definition of alien that you gave in your paper, God can be an alien too.
yeah, he exists in another world. We haven't seen him. We don't know about his
There is
But
existence.
see, it's
sort of
I can say like it's everyone's thought how they think of God, but I can't deny the truth that there is one ultimate power who is ruling all the universe, not only the world.
I
So,
I think
understand it is a
no,
matter
no,
of
see, it's a
faith,
very
but
difficult topic, I can say here. Not everybody will be agreeing with my statement, but as per my thought, I am telling that there is one divine power who is ruling all the universe. They always God has been existed and He has created us, given us a chance. So in that manner, I said that life is an ultimate gift from God. So
how do you
after
know
the
that
existence
God
of the
is
human has, see how we all know as per the religious aspects as well as from the educational point of view. So human came into existence right from starting from carvings on the stones, invention of the wheel, slowly how the human has developed, and humans have developed themselves in a such a way that they are going beyond the earth, in search of universe, galaxies, stars. So in that way, I told that God has given us a chance as well as a thought for the humans to go and search what is going around. See, even
The,
that thought should evoke in the mind, right? So in that
yeah,
aspect, I told ma'am.
the title of your paper is Existence of Aliens, a Myth or a Postmodern Reality. So we have myths with Krishna opening its mouth
That's
and
what. See,
seeing the universe.
I
So it's
agree, ma'am. Yeah, but it's a myth. The one who don't, uh, don't give much importance to the theories. But of course, the existence of the aliens can be a postmodern reality. See, Darwin's theory. Do we agree with to the Darwin's theory? He told that the existence of the human is right from the ape. Later on, it has converted into the humans. I always question when humans are already there, why still apes are there, why they have not converted into humans. I always question to myself, but till now I didn't got the answer. So I just think that it's a theory given. He's not telling that just this is right, he just told that it's a theory. So theory, it's a mindset of Darwin that he told that right from the ape, a man has been transferred from the ape to a human. But when man has transferred from ape to human, why still apes are there? It's a theory, so we have to accept it.
You are an anti-Darwinist.
Oh, so
So
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
believe
yeah.
human?
We understand the perspectives.
it's a very
The only
big
thing is,
debatable topic, I
the
can say.
only thing is, yeah, these questions cannot be answered, and the only thing is, we have to keep research aloof from our beliefs and convictions. It is one thing to have. I may have many beliefs. I may not have beliefs, but that is different from my research. At
Yes,
least for the sake of research, we have to keep it separate. That is the essence of
yes,
it. Of course, we all are entitled to have our opinions and faith. Life is a gift of God, and I'm sure Richu was making that statement about God being an alien from a literary, theoretical point of view, not anything else. So she was suggesting that from
yes, yes,
from the way we look at an alien, or your explanation of what an alien is, if you use that definition, God can also be an alien. She's not saying God is an alien, or that is not the
yes,
thing,
yes.
and that is something else. Yeah. But this, thank you, Anchal ma'am, for opening that Pandora's box of problems that will never settle. that has existed ever since humans started living on this earth. Existed, ever, God and existed. I mean, thank you, Nikhat, Fatima. So we will put you to,
Thank you, everyone.
yeah, rest. Uh, Thank you. And Anchal, Richard, Anchal ma'am is the next person, right?
Angela ma'am, you
Yeah,
are
thank you
next.
so much for waiting, and being the last person is not always the
No,
sweetest
no,
thing to
sir.
happen.
Thank you so much. I really admire you and Richu ma'am. So, both of your passion for literature, and somehow, if I could, inculcate even a bit of the love that that is visible when you give a lecture, that is absolutely incredible. I really.
Richu, should we share that?
Then I
Should
agree
we
with that.
share the secret?
Yeah, the secret. There are many invisible people behind too. Sneha ma'am is also a great lover of literature. But let's start your
Yeah,
paper.
it's
All
just
right.
kidding, man. Thank you. Thank
Uh,
you for the kind words. On behalf of Richu, I accept both credits. Okay,
yes.
please go on.
Uh, so I am Anchal Daya, and I've completed my education from Delhi University, and now I am teaching in Gurugram University. And I would like to begin a presentation. Just give me a moment. Let me see if that is shared. 1 second.
Okay, Lights Out and Harvest by Manjula Padmanabhan. Postmodern elements in the place of
All right.
Manjula.
Is it visible?
Not yet.
Not yet. 1 second. Just give me a moment. Just give me a moment. I'll just fix
No
it.
worries. Take your time. You are the. I don't think anybody else is there to make a presentation. So stage is
Yeah,
all yours. Huh?
the
Yes?
remaining 10 people, they are not joined. They are not here yet.
10 people?
Uh,
One, two.
there are 10 people who are supposed to give their paper presentations, but they did not.
They have. I don't know. Are there any other presenters left while Anjal ma'am is setting her presentation? Is there anyone left here? Somebody missed. Vasanta S did not make the presentation from this session. Is Vasanta? Okay. The presentation is on. Yes. Now it is visible.
All right.
Yeah.
Uh, so yes. The topic of my research here is postmodern elements in the plays of Manjula Padmanabhan, Lights Out and Harvest. And let me give you a brief description of what postmodernism is. So every literary era is a response and continuation of the previous era. Postmodernism cannot be discussed without considering the modernist stance. Postmodernism refers to a shift in perception of people that began in the Western world somewhere around late 1950s. The scholars generally agree that this is a social cultural shift. That this social cultural shift was primarily brought about by the effects of the Second World War on the psyche of the people and the onslaught of the consumer capitalism. Both modernism and postmodernism, they deliberate on the disorientation, fragmentation, and the decenteredness of human existence. Yet, it is these themes, these very themes, that mark the dissimilarity between the two movements. While modernism abhors the fragmented reality and rootlessness, postmodernism celebrates this lack of center and meaning. Uh, Right. The plays that I have considered, Lights Out and Harvest, these plays, they provide us with a slice of urban Indian life where the characters suffer from a postmodern condition. Now, since Indian women playwrights like Manjula Padmanabhan, they're not, let's say, very famous. So, for the sake of context, let me provide a brief idea about what the plays are about. So, the first play, Lights Out, it is based on a real incident that took place in an urban middle class setting of Mumbai in 1982. The play depicts an incident of gang rape through the lens of middle class people. The play opens with a conversation between the couple Bhaskar and Leela, where the latter is desperately trying to persuade her husband to inform the police about the frightening noises in the next building. Bhaskar makes an attempt to dissuade her from reaching out to the police as he feels that it is futile to call the police. Every day they hear these shrieks of a tormented woman, and yet Bhaskar chooses not to give much importance to the incidents as they are not harming them directly. Now their friend Mohan joins them for dinner, where Bhaskar and Mohan, they make absurd theories about what might be happening in the adjacent building. Eventually there is a chaotic situation where they are debating within a secure space of their home about the manner in which they should deal with this menace, while the screams of the woman stop and, I quote, "there is no one left out there." So, through this particular play, Lights Out, Padmanabhan lays bare the hypocrisy of urban middle class through a realistic portrayal of their attitude towards violence against women. Despite witnessing the heinous crime firsthand, I quote, "people chose to stand and watch." The complete inaction of people to the brutal acts of violence happening in their locality over a period of weeks depicts a postmodern numbness of people who consider violence to be ubiquitous and ineluctable. Padmanabhan depicts the extent up to which postmodern individual can turn a blind eye to violence and oppression that one sees every day. The second play that I've considered for the research is Harvest. Harvest is a very famous play by Manjula Padmanabhan. So it's a futuristic play which is set in lower middle class locality of Bombay in 2010 AD. So mind you, it was written in 1997 when there was no video calling or no such means of communication. The play depicts a dystopian modern world which is rotten by the technological and medical advancements. It deals with themes like illegal organ trade, digitization of identities in cyberspace, mental colonization, etc. This play is also inspired by real life events. So the play, Harvest, it examines the plight of a poor family in a suburb where 40 families live in a single building and share one toilet. A family of 4 lives in the same building. Om, the protagonist, his desperation for economic prosperity, it drives him to make a Faustian deal to sell his unspecified organs in a near future to a company called Interplanta Services. The receiver of the organs is Ginny or Virgil, which is a computer-generated white-skinned blonde, a wet dream, we could say. So let us discuss how these two plays, how they share elements of postmodernism. So the first idea that is common in the two plays is the idea of celebration of fragmentation. Postmodern individual does not lament the pathetic condition of life. Fragmented and decentered life is the only possible way of existence. One does not try to escape from these conditions, rather celebrates them. So in the first play, Lights Out, Bhaskar and Mohan are extremely insensitive to the tribulations of the woman who is suffering. The extreme insensitivity of Mohan comes to fore when he compliments Leela on the food while there is a gang raid being committed in front of them. Their postmodern condition has benumbed them to the pain and sufferings of a fellow human being. Now, in the play Harvest, the family celebrates the event of Om getting a job. And what job was that? The pretext of a job is just a facade for illegal organ trade. Om is ready to sacrifice his body, his identity, and his freedom for the sake of a better lifestyle. Similarly, the character of Indumati, Om's mother, she celebrates the newly found luxury and does not seem to regret the consequences of organ trade. She eventually settles into her super deluxe video couch and becomes a cyborg figure, leaving her past identity behind her. The next aspect is the rejection of meta narratives. The perspective on unity and order is another point of distinction between modernism and postmodernism. The latter rejects any form of order because the pursuit of order, because in the pursuit of order, certain peripheral communities like non-white, non-male, etc., are marginalized. Postmodernism criticizes binary opposition in any form and accepts chaos and disorder as the only way of living life. Modernist pursuit of order and unity and stability is termed by Lyotard as meta-narrative. So in the first play, Lights Out, the criminals want people to turn people that are watching this heinous crime being committed. The criminals want them to turn off their lights and indulge in voyeurism without any fear of law and order. Bhaskar and Rohan also dissuade Leela from reaching out to the police as they feel that it is futile to call the police. They, along with many others who watched the incident consciously, chose inaction and have accepted the chaos. Now, the play Harvest, it presents a dystopian view of a futuristic world where trade can take the gruesome shape of cannibalism in the name of organ harvesting. It depicts a world where poverty and deprivation can be exploited for survival and development using technological advancements. It depicts the grave reality of the dreams of a utopia which have been promised to us through the blind race of wealth and technological advancement. The relationships in the play are a total chaos. Om registers Jaya, his wife, as his sister to the company. Initially, he believed that it was only on paper that she was his sister. But as the play moves forward, the meanings in the relationships begin to blur. Even the mother-son relationship is in a continuous flux of meaning. Now, the next aspect that we're going to discuss is postmodernist culture. Sorry, there's a typing mistake here. Postmodernist culture as a simulacrum and the concept of depthlessness. So these are two concepts by two different theorists, we could say. So let's discuss them one by one. In a postmodern world, signifier has no signified because there is no reality to signify. Baudrillard conceptualized the postmodernism culture as a simulacrum. Now, what is a simulacrum? It is a virtual reality simulated or induced by the media or other ideological apparatuses. In the contemporary world, which is dominated by consumer culture, the replication of images makes it impossible to distinguish between original and copy. So much so that we even start to question the originality of the word original, right? The next concept is depthlessness. Frederick Jameson calls postmodern culture as one of depthlessness. In his work, Postmodernism, or the cultural logic of late capitalism. Now, there has been a shift in society from industrial age to information age. All of us know that. Now, in the current world, globalization has led to dehumanized commodification of bodies and identities. Let us see how. The first play, Lights Out, depicts a patriarchal hegemony which has led to the formation of subaltern spaces for women where their identity is submerged by dominant patriarchal ideological discourse around them. In the play Harvest, Ginny is the perfect example of a simulacrum. Ginny, or Virgil, is a computer-generated white-skinned blonde or a wet dream who communicates with the family using a contact module. So in those times, there was no concept of WhatsApp or video calling as such. So this is the method that was used by Ginny to contact with this Indian family. whose organs she wanted. And she provides them with quick money in exchange of their vital organs. Only towards the end of the play, one finds out that the real person behind the image of Ginny, so even Ginny was not real. The real person behind Ginny was Virgil. He has been surveilling the family all this while. Even the so called real figure of Virgil is also virtual, so we do not see him in person on stage, right? So, hence the whole concept of simulacrum. Now, in conclusion, I would say postmodernism rejects the objective notions of reason, universal truth, human nature, social progress, objective reality, etc. It is predicated on the idea that categorization leads to marginalization, which in turn is associated with power. Postmodernism advocates the theory of constructivism and suggests that human nature is merely a social construct. Constructivism is invariably it leads to relativism. Postmodernism is a complex concept as the rejection of meta narratives creates myriads of meanings that can be derived out of every discourse. I think that was something we just discussed here. It offers a bleak prognosis of the fragmented human reality and offers no real solution. Thank you, everyone. That was my presentation.
An excellent paper, faithfully presented.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
I like the clarity of thought. Everything was clear. There was no confusion. Modernism, postmodernism, the way the paper evolved, the conclusions, the various points, everything was very clear, foolproof. It's nice that we end on end with such a wonderful
A bleak prognosis of human reality and offers no real solution. That is basically the gist of paper presentations.
But there is
Just
a beauty, right, Richu? There
Well,
is a beauty in papers like this, no? Even, the conclusion may be bleak, the idea may be there, but there is a beauty in presenting a paper of this sort, and I think this paper will be accepted anyway. That's wonderful.
thank you so much, sir.
And how you export the harvesting. And it really surprised me that Manjula Padmanabhan could think of something of this scale in 1997. The cryogenization.
Absolutely. Even I was surprised when I read Harvest, especially. The kind of concepts that she talked about, we just thought them to be a far-fetched, just like aliens. Like these concepts were aliens to us at that particular time. I wasn't even born, apparently, and many of us were not.
And you're an assistant professor, no?
Yes, I am an assistant professor.
Mm. Yeah, you can be. Yeah. 25. You weren't born in 1997. I was just calculating.
No, the play was written in 1984. Lights Out.
84. Okay, I was thinking it was. I saw somewhere so 1997.
Oh no,
Yeah, it was 1997.
It was written in the paper as 1997. I thought.
90. I think the other play. So there are two texts. One of them is 1997.
Okay.
There was this.
So you were born before 1997, right?
Absolutely. I'm not going to tell when.
Fair enough. Otherwise, it is very unfair. That's what I was thinking.
Like doctor until the year after 1997.
Okay, any questions, friends?
But Anjal ma'am, do you think there is actually a future where I just saw a National Geographic documentary, in the future where humans can upload their consciousness in a sort of artificial intelligence thing, and the body can degrade, and we can exist in that artificial intelligence space. Do you think that there is a possibility?
Yeah, Richu, I am no scientist. I am a literary person. So this is a question I think you would better ask in a science conference. But I think anything can be possible. Yes, I am not close to the possibilities. Apparently, a few years back we could not have imagined the idea. Probably our parents could not have imagined the idea that we'd be able to have conferences like this sitting in the comforts of our home. This was a far-fetched reality. So anything can happen apparently.
Anything can happen, Richu. Anything can happen, Richu. Yeah, I have seen that, and I have also read about this printable things, human beings getting printed and sent to another place and taking printouts of people being taken. Such possibilities people are exploring. The DNA
Oh,
getting printed out. Huh?
3D organ printing from a printer.
Yeah.
Just printing organs. Harvest. Oh, harvest can be connected with that too, right? Something. There is harvest of human organs, right?
Right. There are certain things like that. Recently, there was this a very successful surgery where a human was implanted with a pig's heart, a modified heart, but yes, a pig's heart. So anything can happen apparently.
Yeah, and maybe like we use filters in certain apps, we may be able to do such plastic surgeries to our own bodies if I
I,
wanted better
I
looks.
hope not. Everybody would look the same then, probably.
Okay, so do we have any more paper presenters? So, Anchal ma'am, thank you for that amazing paper, an ideal paper, a paper that can be a model for people who want to write a paper on postmodernism. Very beautifully done. So, anybody else who wants to is there to present a paper who hasn't presented but have registered or whatever, part of the list but who haven't presented? Anybody? And Richu, what is happening in the other room? Hope their things are solved.
So there is this one question that I would like to discuss, if it's okay, if time
Yeah,
constraints
please.
allow. So there is so this is a question for everybody who's here present here in the conference. Uh, do you think the idea of postmodernism is relevant to a nation like India? So, except for a few, let us say, cities with huge population, Delhi, Mumbai, Calcutta, let's setting them aside, where 70% of the population is still living in villages. Do you think the idea of post-modernism is relevant to a country like India? I don't think modernism has actually reached a lot of places.
Madam, I would like to say here something like, see, modernism doesn't see in the, as you're talking, as you have mentioned, villages. Yes, of course, in plenty of villages which I have come across, there is an internet connectivity, the basic needs, electricity, water, and all. The only thing is that they have not moved into an urbanized area, and they are still remain in the villages, maybe for their own needs, like agriculture purpose or something. So yes, even I feel like modernism do exist in every nook and corner, at least 80% in terms of India, I'm telling you, ma'am. So I think if
No,
No,
it's not.
everybody gets urbanized,
you mean modernity,
um,
I
not
think it's
modernism.
postmodernism that I'm questioning. Is
uh,
postmodernism a relevant?
modernity, yes, like it will surely reach in terms of India also, ma'am.
I hope not. With strong family structures, uh, and like we have in India. So there are very few instances that people actually feel a sense of alienation, or modernism hasn't reached a lot of places. How come you could say that postmodernism is a subject which is relevant to a country like India? uh, I really do not agree to
I
that.
don't think that it is going to reach India like the way Romanticism reached India. That way it may not reach, but
Hmm.
in certain aspects, postmodern elements can be located in our lives even. So I think
When
that is
you think our lives, Manu sir, do you think you're actually considering a very small
elite
amount of
majority
people there?
kind of thing. That is an issue. Yeah, that is an issue. Whether who are these
And
people?
we, a few academicians who are sitting here in the comforts of our home, watching, people as
Abhilash, please speak up.
privileged people.
Yes, sir, that's what I want to say. There will be ramifications, I guess, which will sort of engulf our entire living, sir.
I personally feel that postmodernism as a movement akin to say something like romanticism. I don't think it is going to reach India anytime. We are not ready for it, and it may not reach India in its
Maybe it might reach in a different form, but I don't think it will be post-modernism that we'll be facing somehow. The entire India when we're
India is
talking
not
about.
ready for postmodernism.
Absolutely, I agree.
Angel ma'am, would you agree that India has gone through modernism?
That is exactly what I'm saying. I don't think the entire India has gone through modernism yet. There are certain
Manu,
aspects.
sir, Manu sir, I'm Neelu. Can I put in some words? I'm from Mumbai.
Yes, you can.
Definitely,
Please
ma'am.
go ahead.
So you'll be surprised to know we have seen, ma'am, my due apologies to any one of you. Like you see how the education has transformed. See, there may be crime rate here, but you see, I'm telling from Mumbai. We've got people who are getting connected to the remote areas. We have got minorities of Tamil and Malayalis. The girls are studying here. They are carrying with them their culture. And see, every time we may say, okay, you're not going against the norms laid down by the family or something. But the drastic changes these girls and the boys are bringing in, surviving during COVID time period, sustaining with the families, and then trying to establish some new norms. If you agree to those norms, like suddenly the responsibility of the house shifts from the father to the son or to the daughter. This was a transition which is seen in Mumbai when people were just eating or drinking rice soups and rice water. And this was, I tell you, it has been felt by us in houses. And they survived. If you think that is post modernism, a process which is coming up. And the second one, sir, not giving up their education. The education on online has totally, this is what I'm talking of city, but we have seen people shifting their jobs and still surviving. If this you
Yes,
think survival in continuous and continuum in small pockets, which is the only thing I feel we don't write and tell you, we don't put it up, because see, we are totally crushed by the impressions of political uh, changes, or what do you call, like most of the people don't speak, we don't write. Now things have come up that we have started writing, we have started expressing. That's my opinion. I hope I could convince at least an iota of it to all of you. Thank you, sir.
Yes, I
Neil,
agree, because man is just basically in India, the daily whole day just go on struggling for the basic needs. So to reach to that extent, it will be much time taken from India, I guess, because obviously when we talk on this, there are plenty of issues to be discussed, and to reach to that point, I agree with this. Modernism, at least in modernism, you go, not like till postmodernism.
And Angel ma'am, I feel that even if maybe postmodernism will come to India like 100 years down the lane, even if, definitely think that Indians will have a feel of postmodernism. We have so many young people migrating all over the world, Indians itself. So Indians in another country may experience postmodernism firsthand.
oh, absolutely. I'm not talking about a little. I'm not talking about let's say privileged people in Mumbai, Delhi, or Calcutta, or Chennai, or big cities. Basically, I'm talking about. So I have a cousin in a village. I don't think he or she would ever talk about existential issues and things like that. Or maybe somebody who drives a rickshaw. Uh, I think it's very difficult to think about existential issues when you just all you have to think about you know how would you feed your children by the end of the day. Isn't this a very privileged sort of a discourse?
Most isms I feel exist in the academy, and it is not something that goes to the Am Admi. And though we say that postmodernism flaunts populist tendencies, I don't feel there is anything populist about postmodernism in India at least. It is strictly something confined to the academy. Confined to
Yes,
the
Yes,
academy.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
And for the Aam Aadmi, it is something very difficult to understand. Even for us, think about how our students look at postmodernism. I mean, this is a beast, a rough beast, slouching towards us. That is the kind of impression people
It is
get.
the third coming, sir.
Yes,
Not the second
I
coming, but the
really
third
agree, sir.
coming.
Sir, to understand these concepts, a rickshawala can't understand. A person must be educated to understand these concepts. So we can't even get a feedback from a rickshawala what is modernism and postmodernism. So getting to that extent is highly impossible. And a country like India, it's completely impossible. No scope also for that.
And Anjal ma'am, the rickshawala need not remain a rickshawala all his life. I mean, if G.R. Gobinath, the guy who founded Air Deccan, thought like that, we wouldn't have an airlines.
So that
And Nilu
that
ma'am, just to continue your point, if the condition of Mumbai is that, you can imagine the conditions of the villages, the so-called villages. Because whenever we talk about metropolitan cities as such, we have the images of Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, like Achal ma'am said, all the typical good cities, the hi-fi cities as we call them. If that is the condition in those cities, you can imagine the conditions in the northeastern places. Like I'm from Assam, which has many villages,
Yeah.
and there are other places like Mizoram, Manipur, Tripura, which are engulfed by a lot of villages. So forget postmodernism. Here, people will find it difficult to understand what modernism is even.
yes, absolutely right.
So we are
Right.
living in a world which is called as postmodern, but
But Abhilash,
they
sir,
don't say
isn't
the
that the
other.
story? Isn't that the story of every undeveloped country? Like I don't think is the story of our country only, but there are many other countries which are lag far
Yes, yes,
behind us.
absolutely. I took India just as an example.
Yeah,
That
huh.
Yeah.
And I think it's
absolutely.
also a process, because if you look at the things, they reach to the developed countries first, then they reach to countries like developing countries like ours, then to the metro cities, then to the small cities, and then to the villages.
But then
Obviously, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. But if I talk about villages in Rajasthan, you won't believe that there
Yeah.
are so
Brilliant.
many changes there. People are so much advanced in their thought process, and they have started thinking about, like, they might not be aware of theory and all these, but in a very simple scenario, they talk about that, how the ideas are changing, how there is something which used to be the truth, which used to be the fact, but now is getting challenged. Yes, like even people like us, when we go to our villages, we also talk to people that no, this is the thing, and they are ready to accept that one. They are ready to at least analyze that one and to see what its reality is, how far that is true and valid in their scenario also. So I think it's a process. It will take time, but it will touch them also, because if something is there, it will reach there, and we can see that phase. Yes, like I think where the thought process and the theories which were there in the Western countries 10 years back, we are facing them now, and then might be because of this globalized thing. Now things are moving faster,
But
but
I
earlier
think we
this was
cannot
the case.
measure West with India. We cannot have the same parameters of measuring whatever is happening in the West with whatever is happening in India. So Indian feminism is a very different version of the kind of feminism or the kind of journey that feminism has had throughout in West. India has let us say a different issues, very different issues. You cannot uh, ask for same things in India as they are asking for, the things that they're asking for in France. So for see, I think same goes for postmodernism there. Personally, I don't think it's a very positive concept, honestly. So as long as India it doesn't come to India in the same manner, and I don't think it will, because there are very various reasons for that. The kind of culture that I think all the societies, all the communities in India, the kind of culture with which we've been brought up, the kind of strong family structure, strong core strength, uh, which is this is not the case with Western people. One of my friends in Ireland, he came here and fell ill, and the kind of surprise that he went through, because of the kind of care that we provided to him. He said, even my own mother doesn't do so much. Yeah. So these are the kind of things I think which make us different, and I don't think because of these things we're actually going to feel the pangs of postmodernism in the
Thanks
future.
and thanks.
Ma'am, I had something to add, if I may. This is Yashaswini Rathore. Ma'am, I feel that people are multifaceted, and our socioeconomic status got nothing to do with our thoughts and psyche. So there was a point of a rickshawala or a laborer. They might not be able to term it in concepts and theories and terms, but they are as capable as us to think and have these existential questions as well, that why am I working so hard for just a small morsel of food, right? Also, um, when we look at the pulp fiction of India, it is it's really modern as well as postmodern as well. I mean, take an example of this superhero show that used to come in 90s on DD channel, Shaktiman, right? It's there in 90s and it's in India, and because it was on DD, I'm sure it reached lots of people. So I slightly disagree that it could be geographically some areas it has reached, some areas have been left behind, but I really don't think our socioeconomic status really comes in between.
Oh, regarding the comment that I made on a laborer, let us say, of course he or she would not be able to pinpoint it as an existential crisis. But this is something that the question that I'm asking is: would there be a crisis of existentialism? There are far greater questions in his mind at this moment. The questions like hunger. I think hunger is a much bigger thing to think about than the existentialism.
Agree, but that can also be there, like, and they can coexist.
No denial about that. That there can be, absolutely.
Angel ma'am, you said hunger is bigger than extensionism. Very right. I mean, I was just looking at the trailer of Rocket Boys, just reading on Sony Live. I'm not promoting our YouTube or something, but what I want to say that when Homi Baba consulted Nehru with the am I getting to this? When Homi Baba consulted Nehru with the idea for an atomic bomb, he said, "Yeah, the people of India, they are having a tough time. We are facing poverty. There is no time to spend millions of dollars in ISRO and space research things." But we really did it, right? If rockets can come to India, I am optimistic about our future.
Ansel ma'am, when there is the question of our stomach, existentialism goes for a toss.
Hello. Can I add something? I've been sitting here silent for some time and I can't actually keep quiet. So I will just add on to what she said because the same argument can be said about when, for example, we say that pollution is caused by third world countries. There is a commonly believed argument that we are the people who causes more pollution. So if we actually expect a poor person who is actually using coal to use LPG cylinder and telling him that coal is a fossil fuel, you are not supposed to burn it, it is going to cause pollution, it is not going to work. So even when it came to ecological issues, the similar argument was made, how it would work in a country like India. So my argument is that for any ism to work in India, it is actually very difficult because I can give you a few examples. Like for example, say if we are saying feminism. So I'm from Kerala actually, and here in a school I wouldn't call itself a revolutionary thing or anything. They try to introduce gender neutral uniform. Okay. Are you listening? Or can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
You are audible very much.
Okay, so they decided to make both men and women wear the same uniform, that is pants. So the men actually were very somehow they were very intolerant. They were saying that it is very difficult for women to go to bathroom and all. So that is the kind of argument they are actually asking: do women need to wear pants in order to be equal to men? All kind of arguments are being made. So that is the first thing. For a patriarchal country like India, even in 21st century, you just look at the social media, you can see all kinds of comments in social media. So that is one thing. Second thing is the class differences, extreme class differences that you have already mentioned. So there is even this particular term called armchair feminism, So one argument that I have to make is, I would conclude it, you might be familiar with this particular film, The Great Indian Kitchen. It is, I forgot which platform it is in, and in it is about actually divorce. So imagine a poor woman having to make divorce, okay? She is trying to make ends meet, and she doesn't have anywhere to go. If I need divorce, it is very easy for me because I am from a very privileged family. I can always go back to my family. I am pretty sure that my parents will take care of me. So imagine a woman coming from a poor background. She has no place to go, and in a country where they actually tell women to worship their husbands, it is always, I mean, you should borrow their name, you should wear sindoor, you should do this and that and that. So even when it comes to something like divorce, it is very class oriented. So that is another thing, and finally religion. So feminism. Imagine different religion treat women in different way. I'm not giving example. It is very obvious. So you are trying to preach feminism to people coming from different religion. Can we actually change religious ideology? It is very difficult. If we are actually going into a very intolerant time. I'm not giving any examples. So for any ism to work in India, I personally believe that it is very difficult. Not just postmodernism alone. Any ism would be very difficult to be to be applied in India. And only thing we can do is hope. Like someone just mentioned, even after 100 years later, if it is coming to India, let us be hopeful that something is actually happening. I hope I made my argument clear.
That is the beauty of India in some sense, that it cannot be put under one umbrella, that this is India. India is we still have, like Abhilash said, we still have tribal India, we have metropolitan India, we have skyscrapers in India, we have villages in India, we have very remote places in India. So India is not just one particular
Yeah, we can't even define what Indianism is. You can't actually define what being an Indian is. So that is where even the problem starts.
No,
For
I
a
think
country like America, where there are, I mean, you can even be a free, you can even be an atheist over there. Nobody cares. But imagine taking that stance in a country like India. So
I think
I don't even. Let's start with being who is an Indian. That question itself is a problematic stance.
I think we should not discuss a question like Indianism while we are in a conference, discussing postmodernism. Indianism would be going back to modernism again. Defining Indianism would be somehow.
No, I am actually saying that who is actually an Indian. I'm not trying to revert back. I'm actually saying that for a country like India, where we embrace our own identity, for any ism to work, it would be a difficult. That's where we started, right? For postmodernism, what is the need for postmodernism? So I'm actually going. That is why one person said that it would take a lot of time. So that is what I'm trying to say. You can't even even say what Indian English is. We learn what Indian English is. You start with one state. It is very difficult. It is very different. So it is being unique. But yet again, I'm trying to say, being all this isms, it has.
Manasa is laughing at the comment. I think we can tolerate everything, but we cannot tolerate hunger.
Session.
Which means Abhilash is hungry.
Which means we will come to an end now.
Wow, that was a pretty heated discussion. Does anyone want to add anything more?
Richu, you will be adding it to the ending lines of the session, I guess.
I am a big pessimist, so I will not say anything.
Don't lose hope is the moral of the story. This is India, anything can happen. So don't lose hope.
Okay. Does anyone want to recite poetry or something? Is there any poets here?
An elegy on
Manu,
Indianism. An elegy on India. Sree, so we have more people joining in. Yeah, good. Yeah, finally it is, participation is increasing, Abhilash.
Yes, sir. I just ended my session in the other room, so we could come to this room.
Yes. This is the visiting parlor, right?
Yes, kind of, because I was busy there since 3:30.
So all went well there, right?
Yes, sir. All went well.
Okay,
So I officially conclude the final session of this 3-day international conference. Session 8 of Slaughterhouse 5 is down, and thank you so much, guys. I mean, it was a really fun interaction. I thank everyone who has turned on the video and came in for that lively interaction. And I mean, the last half hour was what I enjoyed the most all throughout the 3-day international seminar. Thank you so much for that. And It was such a fun discussion, and I think our discussion sort of wrapped uh, and covered the entire it was not 100 papers, I think about 90. I think half our discussion just covered the topics that were covered in the 90 papers that were presented here. Thank you so much for pitching in your ideas. And yeah, I would like to thank all the chairs, Manu sir, Abhay sir, Sridevi ma'am, Shatruba ma'am, and Nilanjan sir, and also the timekeepers, Sri Priya ma'am, Aisha Di, Shivangi Di, Meher, and myself. I thank myself. So,
That's good.
Also, we should thank your chair because you
oh,
have been sitting on it, right? You stand all chairs. Richu is a
so
pocket dynamite, and
Absolutely, sir.
I will never fight with her because she has something an extra bond in as in that mass that Suresh Gopi character says in that movie. She has an extra bond, so it is very difficult. And she will be 10 years ahead of us when we are thinking 2020. She will be in 2030. So, Richu, you were amazing. You were amazing. You were a wonderful partner for me in paper presentation since yesterday. And I could take breaks in between, but you never had any break. So you deserve a big sleep and a big clap.
we will not end our session on that. Abhay sir, just bring in something on postmodernism. Bring a concluding comment on postmodernism, angst and pangs.
We have already had a lot of angst and pangs around, so we have to just move ahead of all this and just embrace what we have in front of us, and just that's it. You can conclude it, Richu. No worries.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Anjal ma'am, and
Thanks a lot to everyone. Manu sir, is it possible for you to share the mail IDs of you if you could continue interacting with you after this session?
Yeah, I will share it in the group.
Yes, Nilu ma'am, I'll be sharing it. No worries, ma'am.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, each one of you. It was nice interacting with you.
Oh, I said I would share, but then it was on mute. Sorry, I was saying I would share.
No problem, whatever is convenient. We have a young Riju with us, so whatever ideas you discuss in yours, you can do that. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
I finally gave my thanks to the audience. Without you guys, the entire conference, I mean, we were supposed to be having 180 participants, but this conference was a conference where quality trumped quantity. I mean, the sessions were thin, but you were all very faithful. You stayed there from beginning to end, and we have frequent participants. I think we sort of
And it is
developed.
because of the participants we could have such amazing sessions.
Yes, the quality of your presentations and the way you guys responded to the speakers, absolutely amazing. Hats off to you guys. And that will be the concluding word.